In this series of videos, I'm going to show you how to make a piece of Irish crochet lace from beginning to end. I've chosen to make a bib. So I've bought a bib and I'm going to use that as a template. The reason I'm making a bib is because it's a nice small size and it's something that I could frame. It's not necessarily very utilitarian to have a lace bib, but it would be nice for special occasions. Or else, as a gift, you could make the bib and frame it, and it would make a lovely gift for a new parent. As it's 100% cotton, it would easily wash, and when you wash it, all you'd have to do is pin it out and let it dry in its natural shape, and it would be perfect. Irish crochet is one of the cheapest ways you can make lace. You don't really need much, you just need your thread and your hook. And to make the actual piece of lace, once you've got your motifs, you need to stitch it onto a piece of cloth and then crochet between the different parts of the motifs. The type of cloth I use is good old-fashioned poplin. It's quite a cheap cloth and you can get it in a variety of colours. I tend to use a different colour for each project, but more than likely if it's white work, I will be using blue, mainly because blue stands off well with white. So you need something that contrasts with the colours of the thread you use so that you can see what you're doing. Another thing I use is this backing material. I buy a length in the local shop. It's made to serve as a blackout for curtains, and I just buy a length of it and cut a piece off according to my needs. You can keep on reusing this, so you only need one piece and that'll do you for years. I find that the poplin with the backing of the blackout material is the ideal thing for me to work on. I've seen people use a kind of waxed paper before. It's like a slight cardboardy paper with a kind of thick layer on top. It's shiny, and you'd cut out the shape of the piece of lace you're going to make and sew the motifs onto that and then work over that. I've also seen paper used, so somebody would make like the old-fashioned patterns in very fine paper, lay it down and then put the motifs on that and sew over that. I personally find that the poplin and the blackout material suits me the best. So for this particular piece, I'm going to be using my maroon Bordeaux coloured poplin. I've used this for various other projects, so I keep on reusing them. If you see the back, you can see the pinholes of different projects that I've made in the past. So it's totally recyclable and you just keep on using it again and again. So to make the piece of lace, I put down my template onto the cloth and I stitch around it. So I've got the outline of the shape of the lace. This works for everything. You could make a dress, you could make a dress, you could make a coat, you could make anything. You could make a piece of lace that fits onto something else. If you want to make a dress and you're not very good at dressmaking, you could always get a dress that's got the right shape and the right size and take it apart and then use the individual parts of the dress to make your piece of lace. This is important if you want something to be fitted. If it needs to be loose, you can just kind of measure how big you want it to be. But for a fitted dress, or for a part of a wedding dress for example, it's good to have a template to work to. So once I've stitched around the edge of the size of the piece of lace I'm going to make, I bring in my motifs. So I'm going to be using the Wild Rose pattern. And what I need to do is find a way of laying them out. So these are little scrolls I'm using for an edge. I'm just laying them out roughly because I don't yet know how I'm going to do it. It's important that you have a solid edge around the edge of the lace. It makes it that much easier to work with. If you haven't got a solid edge, you can always stitch down a piece of thread. So you could take a piece of number 10 thread and then sew it into a layout, so you've got something to work off. But in this case I'm going to be having an edge all the way around. Here's another rose, and this is the half rose. So all I'm doing here is trying to get an idea of how I'm going to lay out my different parts of the motif. As you can see, nothing's written down, you just choose the layout for yourself. You can make this with any piece and with any motifs. The principles are the same. What I'm going to do is try to make sure that the motifs are all touching. The reason I'll be doing this is to make a more solid piece of lace. So this is more or less the layout I'm going to choose. I tried to make it slightly asymmetrical because I think it's more natural looking. And one thing I need to do now is I need to make an edge for the inside neck. What I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to crochet, single crochet over chain, one row, and I'll put it along the edge here so I'll have something to work from. And it'll also make a nice smooth opening for the neck opening. So my next job now is to sew the pieces down. I'm going to sew the little scrolls to each other, and I'm going to turn them over. I'm going to turn all the motifs over, and I'll be working from the back of the motifs. The reason you work from the back is so that you can get it slightly raised, because Irish crochet is three-dimensional. So when I'm going to be joining up the motifs, I won't be using the edge of the motifs. I'll be working further in on the edge of the motif so that the edge is freestanding and it's raised above the background. So I'll come back to you now when I've sewn everything down, and then I'll show you how to proceed with the rest. I hope you enjoyed these type of videos. Please let me know